Welcome to Bell Podcast, powered by IBN. This original audio production delivers market and sector insights, as well as exclusive interviews with innovative executives shaping the future in fast-moving industries, and may feature a client partner of IBN or one of the 60-plus investor-focused brands within IBN's dynamic brand portfolio. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, IBN leverages its extensive distribution network, utilizing multiple proprietary corporate communication tools to introduce both public and private companies to a vast and diverse audience of investors, consumers, influencers, journalists, and other targeted segments of the public. IBN may have received compensation to produce this audio content. Please be sure to read IBN's entire disclaimers for full disclosures. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the next revelatory episode of IBN's Bell to Bell podcast.
Hi, and welcome to another exciting series of the Harvest Podcast. We are live at the Microcap Conference at the Bogota Hotel, Casino, and Spa. I'm Carmel Fisher, and we're highlighting amazing companies doing breakthrough things. And one of those companies with me, of course, CEO Mr. Will Gray of New Era Helium, Inc., listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker NEHC. Well, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Very excited to hear more. As a start, give us an overview of the company and the main mission and vision.
Yeah, the main mission and vision is we are an upstream natural gas and helium producer that's focused within the Permian Basin. Okay. So we own and operate approximately 137,000 acres, 400 plus wells with substantial, what they call proved and probable gas reserves that have helium associated with them.
Fantastic. We read up and know that the company aims to secure 1% of North American helium market. Given the competitive landscape, what would you say are the unique strategic advantages that will differentiate New Era Helium from the rest?
And that's actually a really good question. When you look at the number of publicly traded, I'd say small cap, micro cap, upstream helium companies, yeah. A lot of them are in the exploration stage. So they have large acreage positions, but not yet in commercialization. So how we differentiate is that we're actually producing helium now, natural gas now. Now, obviously, in our investor presentation, we're looking to be what they call vertically integrate, where we control our own destiny with our own processing plants and our own infrastructure. So that's really what we're doing as we speak. So that's how we really differentiate. We're a less risk, less reward scenario. But again, at the end of the day, we have proved helium reserves.
Fantastic. Tell us about the development of the 250 megawatt net zero energy data center with Sharon AI. How does this partnership strategically position you beyond the traditional helium production? It's a revenue, etc.
That's actually, it's been interesting because a lot of people are like, what are you doing? All of a sudden, you're kind of transitioning to data centers.
Right.
And I think, for some clarity here, let's look to see how helium is produced.
Yeah.
About 95% of the world's helium is associated with natural gas. So you can always, people say, well, helium is a byproduct of natural gas, or you can say, well, or vice versa.
Right.
At the end of the day, we have a substantial amount of natural gas. And all that is a fuel source for electricity. And so we've spent quite a bit of time the past several years better understanding, do we make more money selling natural gas as a molecule in the pipeline, or do we make more money selling it as electrons? And actually, there's a quite uplift in pricing selling it as electricity. And so with that being said, we wanted access to our own reserves in the Permian Basin. And that's where we were introduced to Sharon AI and this collaboration to build a 250 megawatt net zero power data center campus. And that's progressing quite nicely. I think, part of our background, having oil and gas experience was, previously owning the CO2 infrastructure, understanding how do you get to the net zero power? What does that look like? And so obviously, gas-fired power plants have been around a long time, but the carbon capture is new.
Right.
And also what you do with that CO2 is relatively new. So those are all the various ingredients that we've kind of thrown into the mix here to see how we're going to progress with the data center campus there in the Permian.
Very interesting. And we're looking forward to catching up with those developments as they unfold. Talk to us now about strategic offtake agreements that may already be in place, for the plant construction that's currently underway and the most significant operational risks, perhaps.
Yeah. Obviously, you're spot on. Sorry to cut you off there, but you're right. It's kind of like, we're so kind of like before anyone goes out and builds anything, you want to make sure you have firm offtake.
Right.
And that's what we did initially. Is we went out for what they call request for quote process to a 29 companies worldwide, tier 1, tier 2 industrial gas buyers.
Right.
We were able to secure 2 contracts for for both gaseous helium and for liquefied helium, and those so those were put in place about a year and a half ago. So commencement on those should commence in 2025. And I think just as we've kind of gone through the whole process of going public this past year,
Right.
really kind of giving all your full disclosures within your S4. When you start looking at some of the risk factors, obviously project finance, understanding are the terms appropriate. So obviously, like most small companies, access to capital is going to be probably one of your
Right.
biggest risk factors. But right now we've got things moving nicely. 30%, the plan's about 30% complete to date, and the goal has been is to get this in place as soon as possible.
Of course, funding and capital is generally, an obstacle in some cases, but definitely something attainable. What is your strategy to mitigate the challenge of lack of funding, perhaps?
Well, I think that there's 2 things, right? One is,
Right.
of course, understanding, what does your cash flow model look like,
Right.
and understanding, the offtake agreements. That's really one differentiating factor on project finance. 2 is also how, for our perspective, the wells have been drilled, so it significantly de-risks the process.
Right. And that's why we're at the microcap conference, I imagine, because that's part of mitigating those challenges is connecting with very serious investors here on the conference floor. You have not presented yet, but you will be doing so very soon. But
Right.
tell us what key takeaways, in the event we don't get to meet you after your presentation, what key takeaways do you want investors walking away with?
That we're actually one of the few companies that are publicly listed on a major U.S. exchange that's doing what we're doing. There's not been a true consolidation effort of the upstream helium market.
Yep.
And so we're looking at New Era Helium as that platform to go out, consolidate,
Right.
to aggregate, and also to be able to really effectively use our natural gas and use it as electricity. So I think those are the two major takeaways. We have optionality with our product lines, of course, helium and natural gas.
Right.
So that really kind of sets us apart again from some of our other peer groups.
Wonderful. Now, you've mentioned the helium, you've mentioned the natural gas liquids. Now, beyond that, you're exploring methane performance certificates.
Yes.
There's and then the net zero power opportunities inherent there. But can you elaborate on how these diversification strategies will enhance financial resilience and, of course, competitive position?
Yeah, so methane performance certificates, MPCs, are relatively new, and they're predicated on the production of responsibly sourced gas, which is continual monitoring for fugitive methane emissions. So essentially, when you look at methane as a greenhouse gas, it's exponentially more potent than CO2. So obviously, as a gas operator, we want to be very cognizant, very understanding of how are there fugitive emissions leaking throughout the field. And so if we're able to identify those situations and keep them under a certain threshold, then that will allow us to participate in the MPC market. So one day we hope they trade alike, to akin to carbon credits, but
Right.
obviously carbon credits are very different. They're across the spectrum. But so from the responsibly sourced gas perspective, that's what we're looking to do from that, from an ESG profile. And then of course, utilizing our natural gas as a transition energy source by capturing the CO2. I think that's going to be a first of its kind in the Permian. So we're very excited about that.
Awesome. Now, the semiconductor and aerospace industry is obviously critical helium consumers. How are you building strategic partnerships and relationships in these high-tech markets to ensure stable demand, potential long-term contract opportunities, etc.?
I think right now, what we're doing is just kind of focusing on our basic blocking and tackling at this stage, get the plant going,
Right.
get the helium revenues under our umbrella. And, for those strategic relationships, I think, obviously we're selling to the industrial gas market, and they have those very tenured relationships, understanding the specs. So we may not, and right now, we may look to sell to the end user, but for right now, we're very happy with our offtake partners and utilizing that resource. They've been doing it for a long time, and so they know what they're doing, and so we look to partner with them.
Fantastic. Will, tell us a little bit about where we can find information. I'm sure it's all over your websites and all over online spaces, but give us more specifics on where investors watching now can find more information?
Obviously at our website, erahelium.com is the best way to find us. Our Harbor Access is our investor PR relations firm, and they do a great job on sharing information with current investors, future investors. So between Harbor Access and our website, it's a plethora of resources for investors.
Fantastic. Thank you, Will.
Yeah.
All the best. Have a fantastic time at the conference. And
yes,
it's
ma'am.
going to be successful for you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Bell to Bell podcast is an original content production powered by IBN, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company that delivers next-generation corporate communication solutions. Utilizing proprietary corporate communication tools such as news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and brand awareness techniques, among others, IBN introduces both public and private companies to diverse audiences to enhance reach and recognition. IBN may receive compensation for services and solutions provided to its client partners. You should assume that the owners, officers, and directors of IBN or financial analysts mentioned in this production may hold a position in and may intend to trade the securities in their own accounts. This production is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell any securities that may be mentioned in this production. The information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured companies carries inherent investment risk. Listeners should review the companies thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This production by IBN is not purported to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used in statements of fact have been obtained from featured companies and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by IBN as to completeness and accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see IBN's full disclaimers and disclosures at www.ibn.fm/disclaimer. Music in this episode is by Infraction. For more, visit inaudio.org.